There's still gold-eared cat eating out of her meow meow bowl. I just gave her some more food. She licks out of the cans. Ow, on my flywheel, I put out a video before and it said that beware of getting the wrong flywheel. And I think a couple people thumbs down it. And I'm thinking, I said it wasn't my fault. Really, it was, it's listed on, I'll tell you where it was. It was Rock Auto. If you look at a 305 1978 El Camino, it shows a 168 tooth flywheel. That's not right. I thought it wasn't right. So before I took this all out, I got the 153 tooth. That's what I got. That's correct. With the 10.5-inch clutch, not the 11. And there's the transmission, the little Saginaw. And that transmission jack worked fine. Here's the flex plate. Same as the new one. And here's the clutch, the new clutch, which is perfect match for the old one. So I got the flywheel bolts, and they're going to be torqued down. I might put a little Loctite red on it because instead of blue, I know I said blue, but just to make sure. I think I put Loctite on some of these bolts before because some of these things were a pain in the ass to get out. And I also got the pilot bearing, or bushing actually. It's like a bushing. It's a bronze bushing. It if you look at the end of that crank right there, I mean of the transmission, that goes into the crank. There's a bushing. It's called the pilot bushing. That's inside the crank. That little piece goes in there. And you should change that. A lot of people don't change that. So there's a trick to doing that. I'll just tell you how to do it, but because I'm not going to do it on camera, but I've done it before. This job was way easier to do in the Camp Pendleton Auto Hobby Shop because you had a lift and you could stand up. You have to keep crawling up under the car. And I got out my air compressor for the getting off the flywheel, but everything else I didn't need it. But I'll show you a couple other things I did. If you notice this, I hammered this more to the side because there was a bolt right here. I was having a hard time getting out that bolt right there because of this lip being in the way with the bell housing on it. And I hammered down this sheet metal here because top of the shifter, even with the shifter arm off, I don't want to take all the shifter mechanism out. I was hitting that, so I should be okay. The engine doesn't lean back so far as it hit the distributor, so I didn't really need this jack under here. It's kind of not doing nothing. Now here's the pilot bushing. The way to get that out is you fill this up with grease inside of here, and you put a socket in there backwards. Like this isn't the right size. But instead of putting it this way, you put it that way. And you put the extension in here, and you get a socket that just fits in there, and you hammer it out, and the grease pushes it out, and as it comes out, you can get the rest of it with needle nose regular pliers. That's how that comes out. Then to install it, you just put a little grease on it, and you tap it in with a hammer. Now my bell housing is pretty freaking grimy in here because you know, that could have contributed to some of the clutch slipping. But I actually have the cover that goes across the bottom of this thing now. And I'm going to put it in there before, you know, I'll have it bolted in here because I don't want to take the starter out because it goes around the starter like that. And it'll cover up that. So it'll keep any oil from getting in up in there. I don't know if any oil got on the clutch, but it's pretty burnt out and worn anyway. It is literally from 1992 or 93, no later than 93. So that's 26 years old. I got my money's worth out of it, that's for sure. I'm going to clean this thing up really good. That's going to take me a while. The drive bearing just clips in on this thing here, like on this arm. There's like a, put it in here. Yeah, right there. There's like a ball that this thing clips on. This just goes in here. It just slides in here. That's all it does, man. It's like nothing. It's held in by the what you call it, just it's held in by the shaft on the transmission. Just slides in there like that. You hear that? Sounds a little rough. That thing needs changing too, so. But it's going to take me a while to clean up some of this crap in here, so as usual, I'm not going to clean that transmission up though. And I'm going to tell you one thing about getting a shifter out of there on a slip fit. It's kind of a simple process. And also, the cross member, I kind of just slid it out of the way here, see? It's out of the way. You got to take the transmission mount out. You got to disconnect your backup light thing. Your speedometer cable. It's got a cable, it's not electronic. I unbolted the bell housing, obviously, right there. I'll label all the bolts just for the hell of it. You got to take out the drive shaft. It is a pain in the ass because it's easy if you're on a lift. If you're going up in the air and you can stand up and do this shit and raise the car up a little bit and lower it a little bit, it is like, I remember when I did it at the auto hobby shop in Pendleton, it literally took me half a day. I've been screwing around with this for hours, man. Because it's like, I had a hard time getting that. It's just hard to get some of the bolts, man. They're in there. I might have put Loctite on them too. That was another thing. I don't know. Those bell housing bolts were, well, they're in there freaking 27 years. What the hell do you expect, right? And everything, when you take out a bolt, including the cross member bolts, it's on an old car. It's got rust on it, and have fun. This, we're gonna clean this all up, and we're gonna have I got the cover that goes across the bottom again, like I said. That should keep a lot of the oil out of there, because I think I got a rear main seal leak, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to put some stuff in the engine to seal it up. That's partly because I don't use this thing too much too, so I think, if you use it more, and some of the stuff you put in the engine, the oil additives to swell the seals up, sometimes that crap works. That's all I'm going to do. But I think with the cover on this, that clutch is old, man. That clutch, it should work pretty good. Yeah, on this damn thing, a lot of times, well, it depends on which shifter you got. Sometimes they got like 2 bolts that hold the shifter in. This one has 1 screw, and it's a slip fit. But it's in there really tight because it's been in there forever. So what I do is I put the vice grips on it like this, and I take a screwdriver, and I put it between the vice grips and this, and I pry it up. Like the shifter's here, so you put the vice grips like that, and the screwdriver goes between the vice grips and this, and you can pry it up, and once you get it out far enough, you can pull it out. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to pull that thing out. And I actually was starting to take off some of it. I loosened this up a little bit because this was still getting in the way. Took these 2 bolts out, and this kind of was just enough to get clearance. I don't know how this thing's going to go back in. It might be a pain in the ass. It might not be. I don't know. And I might change the rear seal if I can find one. I might have one around here somewhere. It doesn't seem to be leaking too bad or nothing, but while it's out, depends on if I have one laying around. But the old Saginaw, this transmission jack worked pretty good. It did do the job. You can see the chains around here. Well, I had it on here clipped. Now it's not just laying there, but it's wide enough, it's stable enough that this transmission, even though it's cast iron, no problem. So I don't know. I'm going to call up Rock Auto and tell them that their listing is wrong, and I don't know if I'm going to send this thing back or just ask them for credit or something for some dollar amount, because you got to send it back by freight, and I got to pay the freight. Stupid thing. I might as well just keep it, for crying out loud. But that's the one thing. Like you have a 305, you're going to have a 153 tooth flywheel, not a 168. I think the 168 is only on a 400 small block and a 383 stroker, which is uses a 400 crank. I believe it's on the 383 also. I don't even think it's on a 350 engine. It's a 153 tooth. That's all you freaking use, man. So I don't know. And I don't know why this flywheel looks like different, man. It's just how it is. I mean, the way this is on the outside like that. I don't know what the hell why it's like that, but hope it's good to go, man. I got the one for the 350. I just hope it's the same shit. So, I mean, I don't know if they're totally different or not. I mean, I heard they seem like they're about the same weight to me. Might put them on a scale just to double check. You know, because the bolt pattern's the same. But they look a little bit different. Just this part. Freaking Chinese shit. Well, I'm going to double check that on a scale just to make sure. But they definitely have the 305 listed wrong, man. The other one is out to here. The clutch won't fit. You know, the starter won't work or nothing, man. And the engine, it's a 400 is the 168. I think all the other ones are the 153. But I'm going to throw that on a bathroom scale. I got an electronic bathroom scale just to double check it, just to make sure everything should be correct now. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be using the flywheel bolts that I bought, because I might reuse the old ones. Depends if they're the wrong length or some shit. If there's something different about them, I'll reuse the old ones. They got lock washers on them anyway. So, yeah, this is definitely the same one. Let's see the hole pattern. Do you want to? This is not a bolt hole. These two are the closer ones. You can only goes on one way. Looks good to me. So, and if I get this set up where I can take this out quicker, say I burn out the clutch pulling a cannon or something, I'll stick with the 10.5-inch clutch, but I'll get a heavy duty one. I think the next time I do this, it won't be so bad, because if I have to do it again soon, I don't know. We'll find out. But it's more of a pain in the ass cleaning shit up and dealing with rusty bolts and stuff that's been in there for 20-something years. Then you got a brand new car, man. I mean, if you're a freaking mechanic and you're in one of these auto dealers, shit, you got to change a part. You don't get dirt on your hands, man. This is like clean compared to what it was. So, and this, yeah, this piece, I think this fits like towards the flywheel like that. It's like, it locks in there like that. See that? I think that's how that goes. This shit's freaking. I don't know why the hell these. You know, I tell you the truth, I'm not sure why these really. This flywheel is screwed up. This was in there. This might be the original flywheel on the car. You know that? I know it was really old and checkered when I changed the clutch. I just left this in there, 1992 or 93. But I think what goes on with these clutches too, I think the spring tension starts weakening after a while. Because you know, a spring wears out more, not just being under load, it doesn't really wear out. It's like when you're using it back and forth, just like on your well, just on the springs on a car and stuff, but also the springs on the magazines of the guns and stuff like that. It's the fact that you're using them back and forth. If you left the magazines and the guns loaded for 20 years, fully loaded, the spring wouldn't freaking screw up. After a while, just from using the clutch, I think the spring gets weaker, and I think that's part of the reason it screws up, because even though it looks kind of burnt, there's some material left on this damn thing that, well, it was working, but definitely if I stepped on the gas, give it some gas in fourth gear, you'd see the RPMs go, and I was like, fuck, you gotta baby it. So, we'll see. I know I've been kind of talking about this, but I'm just throwing some other things out here that you might run into. And also, if you're taking off this flywheel bolt, these flywheel bolts, it'd behoove you to get an impact. Definitely. When you put the flywheel bolts on, you got to use Loctite. But I'm using Loctite on everything. I'm using Loctite on the clutch. I'm using Loctite on the flywheel bolts. I'm using Loctite on the belt housing. I'm using Loctite on the transmission. Everything's getting Loctite. I think that's what I did last time. I think that's why I was having a hard time too. Anyway.